Hi and welcome. Today I'm sharing a flip through of these two eco print journals. I have a hard time saying that. I don't know why. I still don't think I said it right. Eco dyed prints journals. Oh boy. And not only am I going to do a quick flip through, but I recorded how I made the covers. It's not a complete tutorial on how I did the whole thing, although I sort of walk through how I'm going to finish it, but it's mainly showing how I made the covers because I thought people would be interested. So I'm going to go through this quickly because this is going to be a little bit longer video than normal. They're both, again, very, very similar. As I usually, when I make two at a time, I try to make them as similar as possible. And the cover says, this one says, live the life you've imagined, and this one says, life is about creating yourself. So I will list them together, but I will make clear which is which. So if anybody's interested in ordering these, I just wanted to show, well, let's start with this one then. Show the cover, and it's made on chipboard. I'll go over all of that in the next part of the video, and the canvas fabric spine, so it's very flexible, very, very flexible. I really like that. I'm kind of obsessed with this construction at the moment. I will get over it very shortly, but for now I just love it. So let's flip through quickly. It has scrapbook on the inside. I kept these very minimally decorated, really not even decorated, because I wanted the focus to be on the eco dyed prints. I happen to have these tags already made up with dried leaves, and the other one has a flower, I believe. And then I put deli paper or tissue paper. Now I can't even remember. I made these months ago. But I had these already made, and I thought they worked really well here. So I put in some avocado dyed paper, a little bit, and a little bit of scrapbook paper, book pages, and a little bit of tea dyed papers in between. But I used a lot of eco dyed prints, and I used some masking tape on some of the pages because, you know, you boil these in water for like an hour or two sometimes, and so they can be a little bit, you know, grungy, and sometimes they get holes and stuff, but I like that. Again, I like grunginess. So it's got 3 signatures if you didn't notice, and this is just a little flippy thing. I actually had this also that I didn't use in another journal, so I said, oh, I'll use it in this one. It's perfect. This is a vintage little card that I backed with craft paper because the back didn't look so pretty, and so I wanted to tuck it in there. Some Edith Holden paper, and this is an index card that I eco printed on. More scrapbook paper. This is some vintage sheet music, or I don't even think it's vintage, that I had put some paint on, and then I eco printed on top of that. And then another little vintage postcardy thing, and it's in, I think, German, and then some paper. This is just clipped in, as you can see, so I didn't really attach too many things because graph paper that's just tea dyed and scrunched up. I didn't put in a lot of stuff. Again, I wanted the eco prints to be the focus, and then, you know, whoever gets this can do what they want. Envelope, there's nothing inside of it, and a couple little attached little doodads. And that's an eco dyed print. Isn't that cool? If anybody buys these journals, I better go quicker, and they want me to include some fabric scraps, like I usually kind of attach. This is grocery bag paper scrunched and dyed with blue dye. Blue dyed also, it's tea dyed and then blue on top of that. So it's like a blue brown. If anybody wants me to include fabric scraps, if you're listening to this and you buy one of these journals, I will be happy to sew some in or just throw them in the package. I usually do that with these type of journals, but again, I just really didn't want to do that with these. This is a digital embellishment, and then this is a vintage little postcard. And I put it on this little paper clip. So the offer is there if anyone wants a few fabric scraps. I only have, you know, a little bit of fabric, as I'm sure you can imagine. And then I made this little pocket out of craft paper and just decorated a little library card, and that's a little book page. And there's the back. Oh, I forgot to show you the back because the back is just as pretty as the front. I was actually taking pictures of this in my Etsy shop, and I thought, gosh, I wonder if I should have used that for the cover because it's so pretty, but I wanted them to be similar, so I used the fern. Okay, so here's the other one. And this one has very similar pages. More masking tape. I'll go quick because it's really almost exactly the same. It has a little different thing that's vintage. It is a vintage card. Isn't that pretty? I love looking at eco-dyed prints, even the ones I make. This is the music paper, but just with different colors from the other book. Vintage postcard and that real cool textury paper. I don't know what this paper is, but I just love it. It's got like a texture to it. Maybe it's handmade paper. I don't know. It feels like that. Book page. I love the way this came out. It started tearing there, and it had this like old tape on it already, so I just added a little bit more masking tape because I just really like the way that looks. Hopefully other people do too. I like that kind of grunginess you can't sometimes recreate. Same thing, envelope with nothing inside of it and a couple of little embellishments. How pretty that is. I love the way that looks. I can't even oh, I made this with construction paper. That's what it is. You put construction paper on top, your leaves, and then the paper on top, and that's how it comes out that color. I already had forgotten how I did it. And again, the same types of pages, same types of prints. I tried to match the colors. I experimented a lot this summer with different colors in the pot when I was boiling the papers. So that's why some of them have pink, some have green, some have blue. Yeah, I did a lot of eco printing over the summer. I don't have to do any for quite a while. So there's that, and that's the end. That's the back of that one. So next I'm going to show you how I made these covers. Okay, I'm making some eco print junk journals. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I had this idea all of a sudden today to do this, and I was making them, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll just record this to show people how I made them. So I was inspired by a video by Wendy of Wendy's Journal Adventures, and I will link her video in the description box below. And so I already started one of the covers, and what I did was I took a piece of chipboard, and you can of course use cardboard easily. In her video she used a cereal box, I believe, and after I did this I realized I didn't really need to cut it at first, but I did. I cut 2 pieces of chipboard into 4 pieces because I'm going to make 2 journals, and I was planning and these are for the front and back covers. Okay, so what I did, I'll show you what I did. These are copies of some of my eco prints. I copied these on a laser printer, and I went through my prints and I picked out ones that I thought would be good for the covers. And since I'm making 2, I picked, now I've lost my, hold on, I've lost the other cover. Here we go. I picked two that were similar to make, and so here's how I did it. So if I was doing this again, I probably wouldn't cut these in half until after I glued them, attached them. But I did it already, and so it's fine. The first thing I did was I took my Distress Oxide ink, and by the way, I just have this here old cutting board from, or self-healing mat, I think it's called, from Creative Memories, from when I thought I was going to do scrapbooking like a million years ago, probably 20 years ago. Anyway, I used that just to cut my chipboard in half, because even though these glass mats are very sturdy, I think you can scratch them with a really, really sharp knife. So what I did was, because my laser copies always have this border and I usually cut it off, but in this case I needed every bit of the paper, so I just took my Distress ink. I just have oxides, so that's what I use. You can use regular Distress, it doesn't have to be oxide. Ground Espresso, it's a very dark brown and I like that color, and I just went around the entire edge and did that. So I'm going to do that and stop the video for a minute because you don't need to watch me do all that. Okay, as you can see, I went around the entire outside edge. I put on a pretty thick layer. I went around a couple of times to make sure that this didn't look like it had that any kind of white border, and blend it in a little. I'm going to glue this down to my chipboard, but then I'm also going to, after it dries, put a layer of matte medium, I think, over the top of it to protect it more, and that might cause the ink to move a little bit, so that's also why I went extra heavy. So I'm just going to use my glue stick, and here's the heaviness. I'm not going to worry if I get that on my paper. No, I'm not going to glue that. I'm going to glue the cardboard, and I don't think it really matters which side I use. And I'm going to use this Uhu glue stick because I am no glue expert, but I know that wet glues cause a lot of buckling, and I don't want that on my cover. So I don't want to take the chance of having it buckle and look bad. So I think this glue stick works really well, and as I said, after this dries, I'm going to put a layer of matte medium over the top of it. So I think it will be fine. It'll be secure. And the one thing you want to make sure with your glue stick is, or any glue for that matter, is make sure you cover every bit of it, because it will leave some gaps, and so you just look very carefully and make sure that you cover. Like, there's a big gap right here that I can see, so I'm going over it again. You don't want it to be too gloppy, whoops, but at the same time you don't want to have any gaps, because then you will have buckling as well when you attach your paper. So I'm going to do this side and show you how I do it. It's no big technique, but I'll show you how I do this side, and then I'll do the other side off camera so you don't have to watch this again. Okay, still see some gaps, so I'm just making sure that I have every inch covered. Okay, and especially since I am going to be selling these, so of course I don't want these to be, to be made poorly. All right, so I just line that up. My paper and my chipboard are the exact same size. Just line it up, and that is off a tiny little bit. And there's a little bit of extra glue, which I will wipe off. press it down, press it down, press it down. Let me make sure there's no glue along the edge seeping out. There is a little bit there. Wipe that off. Make sure this is clean. There's some glue right there. I'm gonna put glue on there anyway later, but I don't want any right now on there. Okay, so I got a lot of glue right there on the edge, so I'm just gonna clean that up. If there's any overhang, I will trim that up later. Okay, so that looks good. You can take your bone folder and press it down really well. And then I'm gonna do same thing. See, that looks, I don't know if you can tell in this video, but it looks really smooth. It looks good. I mean, it has a little bit of a texture, but that's okay. I like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Okay, so now I have my 2 pieces glued. I mean, yeah, both of my 4 pieces glued actually. And I'm going to show you how I just cut this one down the same straight line. I have my little kind of heavy duty box cutter, I think it's called. I'm so technical. Again, I shouldn't have cut this ahead of time, but I did, and so I'm going to try to line it right up, make sure it's in the right place, and I'm going to just cut again. And I may not cut exactly in the same place, but I think I did get it. I'm not always the greatest at, whoops. I'm not always the greatest at getting things straight, to be honest, but that looks pretty good. So this is going to be my front cover. This is going to be my back cover. I decided I would stick with showing you how I make one journal at a time. This is actually upside down. Excuse me. Because they're both, the process is the same for both, so it's too confusing to try to show you. Excuse me, both. I'm so sorry. So I found some pretty scrapbook paper that I thought looked really nice with the cover, and I attached it to the back of the front and the back. This is going to be the inside cover, so it's going to look like this. And then I am going to, and by the way, I used Fabri-Tac glue for this because it's scrapbook paper and it's pretty thick scrapbook paper, so I didn't think it would buckle using this glue. And this is a very, very sturdy glue as well. So then I just thought I would show this step because, you know, just because it's not very difficult. But I take my craft knife very carefully and I'm going to go along the edge of the chipboard. This is the pretty sturdy chipboard, so I'm not worried about, you know, doing this. If you don't have chipboard, you might want to use a ruler again, but this works fine. I didn't completely get all the way through that. There we go. And then we'll do the other side very carefully. Very, very carefully. I almost got a little too fast, a little too sure of myself. That's when the problems start. Okay, I think that's good. All right, so, okay, so here are my covers. Let's see. This is the front, this is the back. Let's put it this way. So what you do next, and I'm following Wendy's video exactly, and by the way, I'm going to use different, I haven't decided yet. I pulled out 3 different papers for the other inside cover. I haven't decided which one I'm going to use yet. I'll get to that. So I have my strip that I'm going to use for the spine, and I'm following Wendy's tutorial exactly for this because I am very prone to getting things upside down, mixed up. Yeah, so if I'm driving somewhere that I've been 100 times, I can still get lost. So I have my template. I usually do 1 or 3 signatures. So this is my 3 signature template for this size journal. And what I did was I measured these strips so that they were this size plus a 1/2 inch on either side. And this size, I don't know how I ended up with this size, but it measures 1 3/4 inches. And so what you do is you put your strip of fabric there. Oh, and then you put your template in the middle. And my template really should be a little bit taller. I didn't do it taller. I don't know why. You put it in the middle. And then you take your front cover, put it here, and your back cover, and put it here up against your template. You want these covers to line up, you know. And I usually, even though I said I'm a little bit challenged with stuff like this, I usually eyeball it. And, you know, just make sure I'm careful. And it's usually, I'm tempting fate here, but usually it works out okay, because I'm going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to leave this side here. I'm going to take my Fabri-Tac glue. I'm going to take this carefully away, and I'm going to put my Fabri-Tac glue along this fabric if it comes out. I don't know, for me, Fabri-Tac, I love the way it works, but it's so hard to get out of the container. You have to like develop some strong hand muscles. Now I have a little gloppy glue I need to get rid of. I am gluing this down, but I'm also going to sew this, so it doesn't have to be super duper glued on there. Later on I might glue, you know, the top somewhere. I might like reinforce it if it needs it. So hold that down for a minute. The other good thing about Fabri-Tac is it dries pretty quickly, fairly quickly. Okay, then you're going to do the same thing on this side. You're going to take your glue and cover this part fairly well. And I'm paying attention more to the top right here and the bottom right here, because I want those parts to make sure they stick down. I don't want them sticking up at the end. But if they do, you can go back and glue it a little bit more. So we're lined up there. Hopefully my head's not in the way of the camera. And I'm gonna hold that down. So now you can take this off. Just press it down for a minute, and you have your 2 pieces. Now what I'm going to do next off camera is I'm going to take this and sew around here and here and here and here. Oh, first I went to do my matte medium. Probably should have done that first, of course. See what I mean? I'm going to do the matte medium, being very careful that I don't get it on my fabric. And then I'm going to sew around here and around here. I'm going to do a zigzag because I think that'll look nice on here. I think I'm going to use black thread. I don't know. I was thinking maybe I should use brown, but I'll figure that out when I get there. So I'm going to do all that, and then I'll come back. Okay, I sewed the covers onto the fabric. And another thing I want to say about myself and my style is I am not a sewer. I have never taken lessons, or, you know, what I do is I put whatever it is under into the machine and sew, hopefully relatively straight. But one of the things that drew me to making junk journals is that they don't have to be perfect, and I don't want perfection, to be honest. I really like the wonky stitching, and I like, you know, threads hanging. I usually leave them hanging, and sometimes I trim some of them off if it looks like too much. And you know, I think it looks good like that. If anybody gets one of these journals, you can cut off the, you know, you can trim that if you want to. But anyway, having said that, you know, I don't have a fancy sewing machine either. A very, very inexpensive sewing machine. And so anyway, this is what my sewing looks like. I really like it, but it's definitely far from perfect. So that's the front covers. This is the back. I think it looks really cute. And then it will look like this, because the next thing I'm going to do is sew the signatures into this fabric, just like if it was a you know, regular spine. It was a little more sturdy. And I haven't quite figured out if I'm probably going to put something on the cover, very simple, like a little oh, I don't know what you want to call it, like a little metal piece of something. I don't know, that maybe has a word or something. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to do the same thing to the other covers with different paper. I've decided to use this paper. It has this on the back, but I rather like this check, and I think it looks nice with that. So I'm going to do that. I'll come back and I'll show you what that looks like. And I'm going to gather my papers. I'm going to show you a journal. This is one of the very first journals I made. That's when I fell in love with making junk journals. And I think I used something like a cereal box. And I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest, but I love the way it turned out. So I was thinking if I have something like this to put on the cover of this one. I don't want to cover up the print, of course. And so with this one was, the cover was a little different. The whole thing was different. But I'm going to do the inside similar in that I'm going to gather some papers. I'm going to get some eco dyed prints and gather papers that I think look nice and sew them in like this. This is not really decorated, as you can see, but you know, I think it looks nice. I like it. I don't think I'll ever do anything with this journal because I don't want to cover up any of the prints. Maybe I can add stuff to pages like this. I don't really journal write, so I'm not sure. This is a little loosey-goosey here, but because, you know, probably it's my very first journal, so probably not the greatest thing, but I love it. And the inside of these will look something like this. Okay, I'll be back. Okie doke, here's where I'm at. So I finished sewing around both of the journals, both the front and the back covers, and that's what it looks like on the inside. I'm going to leave the threads hanging. This one bowed a little bit, so once I put the pages in, I will flatten it under some heavy books so that it's not bowed like that. Should be fine. And figure out what I'm going to do with the front. So that's that one. I think I already showed you this one, but I'll show you again. There's that, and the inside. And what I did is I gathered all my pages. I'll just show you one. They're both almost exactly the same. Some of the papers are the same because I had, you know, the same papers. The eco prints, our eco dyed prints, will be a little bit different, but I tried to pick similar colors. And I put some tea dyed paper in, and some book pages, some other papers, and oh, this one is the avocado dyed paper. And in one of these I put, because the colors happen to work out, I put blue dyed paper. So right now it's pretty bulky. I'm not going to decorate it too much because I wanted to keep these simple and focus more on the eco dyed prints in these journals, and also I wanted to finish them fairly quickly so that I could move on to a couple of other journals that I'm working on that are going to be time consuming. So the next thing I'm going to do, and also since they're already bulky, or I wouldn't say bulky, but they're just, you know, the eco dyed prints are on mostly on watercolor paper, although I used a variety of different papers, so those are heavier papers. Anyway, I'm rambling. The next thing I'm going to do, and this is what it'll look like, is I'm going to trim all the papers up so they actually fit in here, but I think that looks really nice so far. So what I'll do is I'll trim them this way, and make sure they all fit nicely. They don't have to be the same size. They don't have to be, for me, they don't have to be, you know, especially neat. I'll probably trim them with my ruler. Just take the ruler, whoops, and, you know, tear them like that. But if you want them neater, like if you're making one of these and you want it to be neater, you can trim it with your paper trimmer, paper cutter. So I'm going to do that next, and then I'm just going to sew these in to the canvas, and I'm not going to show that because this isn't really a tutorial on how to make a journal. I mean, I didn't plan on doing that today. I just decided to make these journals kind of spur of the moment, and then spur of the moment decided to record a little bit of the process. So what I'll do is I'll just describe it, and then if you have seen this video from the beginning, I have done a flip through of the journals at the beginning. So what I'll do is I'll take my template, I'll put it here centered, and I will poke 3 holes here, here, and here, and then in the canvas, obviously, and then I'll take my signatures and I will find the center. First I paper clip all these together. I put this in the center. Again, this really should be bigger, but, well, I'm going to trim my paper, so anyway, should be okay. But just again, I just eyeball it. I've done this a lot and it usually works out fine. Anyway, put this in the center, poke the holes here, and then sew each signature into the book as such. It's called a 3-hole pamphlet stitch in case anybody hasn't heard of it, and then the third one will go there. And it's really simple. It's mostly how I sew in my signatures, and there are like 100 million videos on how to do that. If you don't know how to do it, just Google it or search it on YouTube, and that's how I learned how to do it, and it's really simple once you figure it out. The key is to keep your papers together, and I have these big paper clips, and I paper clip them here and here, and then poke the holes and then sew them in. Keeping it together is the hardest thing, the challenge. So if you've gotten this far, this is the end, I guess, because at the beginning I will do a flip through at the beginning of this video after they're all finished. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.